Most people who are trying to build wealth have a number in their head, a number that feels like the finish line, a number that, once reached, would finally prove the system is working. For most people over 40, that number is $100,000, and most of them will never reach it. Not because they can't, because they don't understand why it feels the way it feels, and they quit before they find out. If you're over 40 and you've been saving, investing, cutting back, doing what you're supposed to do, and $100,000 still feels impossibly far away, you are not failing. You are inside a phase that was never explained to you. A phase that is designed to feel impossible. And if you don't know you're in it, you will quit. Every time. That phase has a name. I call it the 5-2-1 rule. And it explains exactly why your first $100,000 is the hardest money you will ever build, and why everything after it accelerates in a way that will genuinely surprise you. Stop for a moment. The problem is not your income. It's not your savings rate. It's not that you started too late. The problem is that nobody told you what the road to $100,000 actually looks like from the inside. That's what this video is about. Stay with me, because the next few minutes are exactly why you came here. Here's the mistake almost everyone makes when they're chasing their first $100,000. They treat it as a savings problem. Save more, spend less, cut the subscriptions, skip the vacation, grind harder, and maybe, eventually, the number gets there. That's not how it works. Not at the architectural level. Your first $100,000 is not a savings problem. It is a compounding activation problem. It is the threshold your money needs to cross before the engine turns on. Before compounding stops being theoretical and starts being mechanical. Before your money starts doing work that you cannot do manually, no matter how hard you save. Not savings. Activation. Think about that. Every dollar below $100,000 is a dollar that is working, but not yet at full capacity. It's like an engine that's warming up. It runs. It moves. But it hasn't reached operating temperature yet. And below operating temperature, everything feels slow, everything feels hard, and everything feels like it might not be worth it. The 5-2-1 rule is not a saving strategy. It is a map of the 3 phases your money passes through on the way to $100,000, and what each phase requires from you emotionally and behaviorally, not just financially. Let me be direct about that. The first $100,000 is hard because of what it is architecturally, not because of what you're doing wrong. The 5-2-1 rule begins here. Phase 1. Rule number 1, the 5-year grind. For the first 5 years of building toward $100,000, your contributions do more work than your returns. You are the engine, not compounding. Here's what that looks like in real numbers. You're 42 years old. You invest $600 a month, 7% average annual return. End of year 1, $7,500. You contributed $7,200. Compounding added $300. End of year 2, $15,400. You contributed $14,400. Compounding added $1,000. End of year 3, $23,800. Contributed $21,600. Compounding added $2,200. End of year 4, $32,700. Contributed $28,800. Compounding added $3,900. End of year 5, $42,200. Contributed $36,000. Compounding added $6,200. My friend, look at those numbers carefully. After 5 full years of discipline, 5 years of $600 every single month without fail, compounding has added $6,200. You added $36,000. You are doing 85% of the work. Compounding is doing 15%. That's the trap. Not because anything is broken, because this is exactly how it works at this stage. You are in the 5-year grind. You are the engine, and the engine has to run whether it feels rewarding or not, because what comes next only happens if you stayed. Before we go further, I want you to do something. Drop a number in the comments. Where are you right now? Not your age, your number. Your current invested balance. Round it to the nearest thousand if you want. $8,000, $31,000, $67,000, whatever it is. Because the phase you're in inside the 5-2-1 rule is determined by that number. Not your age, not your income, not how long you've been trying. The number tells me exactly where you are in the architecture, and I want you to see it clearly before we get to phase 2. Drop it below. Rule 2, the 2-year shift. Between $42,000 and roughly $75,000, something changes. Compounding stops being a passenger and starts being a co-driver. This phase lasts approximately 2 years, and it is the most psychologically dangerous phase in the entire journey. Continuing our example, same person, same $600 a month, same 7%. End of year 6, $52,300. Compounding contribution that year, $2,900. End of year 7, $63,100. Compounding contribution that year, $3,700. End of year 8, $74,700. Compounding contribution that year, $4,600. The annual compounding contribution is now growing faster than it was. It went from $1,000 in year 2 to $4,600 in year 8. It's accelerating. You can feel it starting to work differently. But here's why this phase is dangerous. Because you can feel it working, you start believing the hard part is over. And that belief makes people do one of two things. They either get overconfident and take on more risk than the architecture was designed to handle, or they get impatient because they can finally see $100,000 from where they're standing, and they try to shortcut the last stretch. That's the trap. The 2-year shift is not the finish line. It is the approach, and approaches require precision, not acceleration. Think about that. The people who blow up their first $100,000 journey almost always do it in this phase. Not in the grind when everything feels hard. In the shift when everything finally starts to feel easy. Rule number 3, the invisible threshold. The moment your balance crosses $100,000, the mathematical relationship between your contributions and your returns permanently inverts. Compounding becomes the engine. You become the passenger. Here's what that inversion looks like. Same person, age 51 now. Balance just crossed $100,000. At 7%, your $100,000 generates approximately $7,000 in returns in the next 12 months. You contribute $7,200 that year. Compounding and your contributions are now almost equal. By the time your balance reaches $115,000, which happens faster than you expect, compounding generates $8,050 annually. Your contributions are still $7,200. Compounding is now outpacing you. Your money is working harder than you are. Think about that. You spent years being the engine. And then one day, without a ceremony, without an announcement, the engine switches. And from that point forward, every dollar you contribute is amplified by a system that is already running at full capacity. That is the invisible threshold. It doesn't feel dramatic when you cross it. Your balance doesn't look different on a Tuesday morning, but structurally, architecturally, everything has changed. You are no longer building wealth. You are sustaining a system that is building wealth for you. Most people never see this coming because they quit in the 5-year grind. They never reach the shift. They never cross the threshold. Not because they couldn't, because they didn't know what they were building toward. Quick pause. If you're watching this and you want to see exactly where you are in the 5-2-1 rule, your current phase, your projected crossing point, and what your invisible threshold date looks like based on your actual numbers, we built a tool for that. The Trip to Wealth Financial Google Sheet. It's in the description below. Put in your current balance, your monthly contribution, and your expected return, and it maps your entire 5-2-1 timeline. Phase 1 end date. Phase 2 window. Threshold crossing point. It turns the abstract into something you can actually see on a screen. Link is below. Now, let's talk about what most people get wrong after they understand the 5-2-1 rule. Everything so far has been the map, the 5-year grind, the 2-year shift, the invisible threshold. You now understand the architecture of your first $100,000 better than most financial professionals ever explain it. But understanding the map is not the same as walking the road. Here's what the data on wealth building actually shows. The people who reach $100,000 are not the people with the highest income. They are not the people with the most sophisticated investment strategies. They are almost always the people who made one decision, at some specific moment during the 5-year grind, to treat the process as non-negotiable, not motivating, non-negotiable. There's a difference. Motivation depends on how you feel. Non-negotiable doesn't care how you feel. Non-negotiable says, I understand what phase I'm in, I understand what this phase requires, and I am not going to mistake the architecture for a personal failure. That decision, that single reframe, is worth more than any investment strategy, any savings rate optimization, any financial hack you will ever read about. Not knowledge, decision. Let me show you what happens on the other side of that decision, because what comes after $100,000 is not just bigger numbers. It is a fundamentally different relationship with money. Rule 4. The acceleration effect. Every dollar you build after $100,000 compounds faster than every dollar you built before it, because the base it compounds on is larger, more established, and no longer dependent on your monthly contributions to grow. Let me show you what this means concretely. Our same person, age 51, balance $100,000, still contributing $600 a month, still at 7%. Age 55, $163,000, 4 years, $63,000 added. Contributions, $28,800. Compounding, $34,200. Compounding is now doing 54% of the work. Age 60, $243,000, 5 more years, $80,000 added. Contributions, $36,000. Compounding, $44,000. Compounding doing 55% of the work and growing. Age 65, $354,000. From a $600 monthly investment starting at 42. Total contributions over 23 years, $165,600. Total compounding, $188,400. Compounding contributed more than you did over a lifetime. My friend, that is the acceleration effect. That is what you were building toward during every month of the 5-year grind when it felt like nothing was happening. That is what the invisible threshold unlocks. But here's the over-monitoring trap that kills people at this stage. Because the numbers are finally moving in a way that feels real, people start reacting to every market fluctuation. Every dip feels like a threat to something they worked too hard to lose. And that fear, completely understandable, completely rational, leads to decisions that interrupt a structure that is working exactly as designed. Stop for a moment. After $100,000, your job is not to manage your wealth more actively. Your job is to manage your behavior more carefully, built with intention. Before the final section, one more question. Did something shift for you in this video? Not the numbers, the understanding? Did the 5-year grind suddenly make sense? Did you recognize the phase you're in right now? Did you realize you might have quit a previous attempt right before the 2-year shift kicked in? Drop a comment. Say your number again, or just say, I see it now. Because recognizing the phase is the first architectural decision, and the first architectural decision changes everything that follows. Let me bring the 5-2-1 rule together completely. Rule 1, the 5-year grind. For the first 5 years, you are the engine. compounding is warming up. The gap between what you put in and what you get back will feel insulting. That feeling is not a signal to quit. It is confirmation that the architecture is working exactly as designed. Every person who crossed $100,000 paid this price, no exceptions. Rule 2, the 2-year shift. Between $42,000 and $75,000, compounding becomes a co-driver. This phase feels like relief, and that relief is dangerous. Do not shortcut the approach. Do not increase risk because you can finally see the finish line. Precision in this phase protects everything you built in phase 1. Rule 3, the invisible threshold. The moment your balance crosses $100,000, the engine switches. Compounding begins to outpace your contributions. The relationship between your work and your money permanently inverts. You don't feel it when it happens, but it happens. And from that day forward, the architecture runs without you needing to be the engine. Rule 4, the acceleration effect. Every dollar after $100,000 compounds on a larger, stronger base. The wealth that felt impossible to build for 5 years begins to build itself. Not quickly, not dramatically, but mechanically, reliably, irreversibly. 4 rules, 1 threshold, and the only question that matters: will you stay in the grind long enough to cross it? Irreversible wealth is not built in the moments that feel rewarding. It is built in the moments that feel pointless, and the people who understood that are the ones who crossed. 5 questions. Answer honestly. 1. Do you know exactly which phase of the 5-2-1 rule you're currently in? The grind, the shift, or past the threshold? 2. Have you ever abandoned a savings or investment strategy during what you now recognize as the 5-year grind phase? 3. Do you know your invisible threshold date? The specific point at which compounding will begin to outpace your monthly contributions based on your current numbers? 4. In the last 12 months, have you made any changes to your investment strategy based on how your balance felt, rather than what the architecture required? 5. Does your current financial plan have a defined endpoint, a threshold, a target, an architectural finish line? Or are you managing it month by month with no structural destination? If you answered no to 3 or more, you are not behind on wealth. You are behind on architecture. The money is already there in some form. The structure is what's missing. Screenshot this. These 5 questions will tell you more about where you are financially than your account balance ever will. Here is what I want you to leave with. Your first $100,000 is not hard because you're doing something wrong. It's hard because of what it is. It is the activation threshold, the price of entry, the phase that separates the people who eventually stop worrying about money from the people who worry about it their entire lives. The 5-year grind is not punishment, it is construction. The 2-year shift is not luck, it is the structure emerging. The invisible threshold is not a milestone. It is an inversion, the moment the machine you built starts building for you. And the acceleration effect is not a reward. It is the inevitable outcome of architecture that was built with intention and protected through every phase that tried to convince you it wasn't working. You don't need more money to start. You don't need more time. You need to understand what you're building and stay in it long enough for it to become what it was always designed to become. Not more time, better architecture. Build it with intention, and wealth becomes irreversible. That's it. If this framework brought you clarity, I highly recommend watching my next video. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Also, feel free to leave your comment below, especially if this video made you think differently. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.